Hello, my name is John Primeau,
And I'm Neha Bhatia.
and this is our assignment 1 for Theory and Practice of Interpersonal Communication.
In this presentation, we will be discussing the process of communication.
There are a number of methods of communications, but the most common one used by humans is verbal.
However, verbal communication is not the only means of communicating. One could send an email, text, send a message on MSN, or simply call. Communication is everywhere in our day-to-day lives. From the second we wake up to the time we go to sleep, we are communicating in some way or another. Everyone communicates. Studies show that texting and emailing are highly preferred by introverts. Jobs require the communication for the operation of a productive organization. Eye contact is another method of communication, as well as facial expressions. They are easily able to share emotions, whether one is sad, happy, nervous, mad, maybe in love, excited, surprised, or simply feeling joyful. It can be detected.
Before there was a clear definition of communication, researchers believed that communication was a one-way interaction. They believed one person would speak and then stop, and then the other would speak and then stop, and so on and so forth. Because they believed communication was carried out in this method, they coined the topic the linear communication model. The linear communication model consists of a sender the message creator, a receiver, the one who accepts the message, and involves encoding by the sender, which is a quick step of deciding what you want to say and how. The message, which is the information sent from a sender to a receiver, is sent through a channel, which is the method in which the message is sent, such as an email or a text. The receiver must then decode, which is the process of understanding the message received. The environment is defined as the physical characteristics of a person's surroundings, as well as the personal experiences that help a communicator understand another's behavior. There is also noise, which is interferences along the message pathway.
So what is noise? Noises are any external, physiological, or psychological distractions that interfere with the accurate transmission and reception of a message.
Now back to an example of the linear communication model. Let's say Neha wanted to tell me something about school. She would be the sender and she would encode what she wanted to say and how. The words she decided to use would be the message. And the way she told me, i.e. a phone call, would be the channel. The receiver, or me, has to understand or decode the presented words. Anything that could distract this transmission would be known as noise. Where I am physically and my life experiences up to this point that would help me understand the message would be considered my environment.
Because communication doesn't work in this back and forth fashion, as the linear model suggests, a more encompassing model is used today. The transactional model, which illustrates that the sender and receiver send, encode, receive, and decode messages simultaneously. Although this model incorporates the components from the linear model, it broadens the aspect of encoding and introduces a new variable. Because some messages are sent unconsciously and therefore are not encoded, the term encode is changed to behave. Behavior for this model is defined as observable actions that can be interpreted as communicative messages such as facial expressions, gestures, vocal tones, and postures. The new variable for this model, which is feedback, is the response of the receiver to the sender.
The two terms are incorporated into this model because a large portion of communication is spoken. The advanced transactional model illustrates the definition of communication as defined by the textbook Looking Out, Looking. The definition is a continuous transactional process involving participants who occupy different but overlapping environments and create relationships through the exchange of messages, many of which are affected by.
I must say, John, without communication, life would be pretty boring. At least mine. Now we should consider why we absolutely need communication in our lives. As future healthcare professionals, communication is essential in our fields of work. Without it, we would be doomed. There are an uncountable number of ways in which healthcare workers need to communicate with patients, the public, co-workers, and other members of society to ensure that they are being able to provide services properly, effectively, and efficiently. Examples include administrators need to communicate with patients in order to set up appointments for them and verify their attendance at these appointments. Doctors and nurses as well must be able to communicate with their patients and each other to provide directly to a patient's health care.
The media is another really effective means of communication within healthcare. Major examples include SARS and more recently the H1N1 and swine flu outbreak, which were brought forth to the public through this method.
To sum up our presentation, we would like to give you a quote from Looking Out, Looking In, which says,
"If it were not for communication, we would not be able to fulfill our physical, identity, and social needs and to attain practical goals."
And that's our presentation. Thanks for listening.